My boyfriend's ex spent the night in my bed with my boyfriend ignoring all of my calls the entire night. And even though the next morning I'm considering breaking up with him, my boyfriend claims that nothing happened between the two of them and that he was just comforting her over the fact that they broke up. But right now I feel very confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm extremely hurt, but to my boyfriend's credit, he was very upfront about everything. He texted me immediately the morning after to tell me everything about this. Now for context, my boyfriend, let's call him James, broke up with his ex-girlfriend, who we will call Whitney, about 2 years ago. They chose to stay friends, and this has caused some issues between James and I, mostly because Whitney just can't get over the breakup. She thinks her and James are soulmates, and she just refuses to accept that he stopped being in love with her. So a conversation they will very often have is James literally spending hours going over the logic of why he broke up with her. He tries to reassure her since they're still friends and she's still hurting, but I have witnessed some of these conversations, and he's loving but firm. I suspect some of you will say there's something going on, but there really isn't. James is definitely over her. James and I moved in together 2 weeks ago, and this has caused Whitney to be worse than ever. Like she relapsed with the depression and the crying fits. They're happening constantly now. I went back to my parents' place this weekend because I had to pack my car full of some more of my things, and I spent the Saturday there. Now Whitney must have known this because Saturday night, she showed up at our place crying and wailing and honestly just giving the works. We have a doorbell camera, and I got a notification as soon as she was at the door. Now, I didn't see it right away, but as soon as I saw it, I texted and called James, and I checked our indoor camera to see what was going on. Now, this is where James definitely messed up, and he even admits to this, because he did not text me the entire night while Whitney was there. So all I knew was that she showed up. I checked our indoor camera that we keep in the living room by the front door, and it was completely turned off. And this is normal. We only turn it on when we're away from home. But I was extremely upset and distraught as I was imagining the absolute worst. I trust James, but I just didn't understand why he wouldn't answer my calls, and he admits that it was horrible of him. Now, I was ready to break up with him Sunday morning, but he texted me and immediately let me know that Whitney had come over. He said it sounds really bad, but she spent the night, but nothing happened. And he set up the indoor camera in the bedroom to prove it. Now, I didn't want to believe him, but I did watch the footage, and even though it shows both of them laying in bed, it's true that Whitney was just crying while James was consoling her. Now, there are some things that he did that bother me a lot. At some point, he kissed her forehead, and he hugged her and held her close several times, and I'm honestly speechless at that. But I understand he knew there was a camera on him the entire time, and he knew I would see him doing that. So I guess he doesn't see that as cheating. So basically, James is asking me for understanding and for forgiveness. I have the proof that nothing happened, but I am still hurt. This isn't how I imagine us starting our life together. So honestly, what are some healthy steps that we can make for our relationship? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, this story's insane in my opinion. There is no way you're possibly letting James get away with this. Like seriously, this is not okay. Whitney is obviously trying to get back with your boyfriend, and you're just trying to be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing happened. He set up the camera. And it's like, no, you don't know that at all. The cameras were off and he only set it up after the fact. Like this is crazy because clearly James and Whitney are not over each other. If he actually cared about you, he would have been like, wait a second, why are you at my house? You need to leave. I need you to go home. Whitney having these depressive episodes and crying fits. Like what in the world is going on? Her screaming and crying about not being in a relationship with James is just a ploy for her to literally get back in bed with him. And guess what? She did that, but in your bed. Because at the end of the day, you have literally no proof that nothing happened. Because in my opinion, I think something absolutely happened. And who knows how long it's been happening too. Because this behavior is absolutely a deal breaker for me. And if James can't stand his ground and have a backbone and tell Whitney to get lost, then there is no way I would ever see this relationship working out. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my partner make a fake proposal while me and him were on vacation in Paris? Because after I shut down his idea in front of the Eiffel Tower, he now seems incredibly upset. And at this point, I'm not entirely sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my partner and I went on vacation last week for our 2-year anniversary, and we just got back 2 days ago. Now, it was a fantastic, amazing, and romantic vacation, all up to the point when my partner suggested that we ask a stranger to take a picture of us and a fake proposal in front of the Eiffel Tower. When he asked this, my heart started beating so fast. I immediately assumed he was saying fake proposal as a ruse for a real proposal, which is not something that we talked about yet. I think I just said, wait, what do you mean? And he said that proposal pictures in this spot were really popular, and we should take the opportunity while we can. I said I wasn't really interested in a fake proposal picture and that I thought it was weird that he would suggest that. Well, we then moved on pretty quickly and then we went to dinner. When we got back to our hotel that evening, I asked him about it, since it had been on my mind and I could tell that I had actually really upset him. So I asked him explicitly, were you planning on actually proposing to me and I just ruined it? And he said no, that he doesn't think we're ready for that step. And for the record, I completely agree. Our relationship was long distance for the last 8 months, and I am planning on moving in with him when my lease is up in January. He said that he always thought the proposal picture in front of the Eiffel Tower was really romantic, and that he's worried whenever he actually does propose, it won't be as romantic as Paris. So he wanted to get the picture while he could. Well, I apologized, but told him that I was only interested in actual proposal pictures, and that I would love them whenever and wherever it happened. He was pretty crestfallen since this conversation, and I really felt like I genuinely ruined something for him. I called some friends when we got home and I got some mixed advice. Some agreeing that it was a really odd request, and some saying that I should have just taken the fake proposal photo, which would have been no harm done. So am I the jerk for not taking the photo with him? Because right now I really feel like I disappointed my partner. No, I don't think you're the jerk. Like, this really is a weird request, and in my opinion, it's not entirely appropriate. Like, sure, it seems like he's kind of like future-proofing the situation, but wouldn't you want the photo of like the actual proposal itself? Why not just plan for that instead of having like a placeholder picture? Like, that doesn't make any sense, and it seems kind of weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk, because that really is a weird request. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Entitled customers make my job so hard, especially when they try to make custom orders at our restaurant for stuff that is absolutely not on our menu. And now, after dealing with this for so long, I feel like I'm at my breaking point and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I don't understand customers who can't just accept if a restaurant has a policy, or how restaurants want to serve their food. I've been to a restaurant before where they had mushrooms in the restaurant for one dish, but I wanted a different dish and asked if I could substitute the broccoli my dish came with for sauteed mushrooms instead. Well, the server politely told me no, and I accepted it and just chose another option. I didn't make it hard for the server or the managers or even the kitchen staff or literally anybody. I didn't tell the staff how it's such a simple request and it doesn't make sense for them to just not do it. I didn't say how other restaurants can do it, so why can't they? It's how the restaurant wants to serve their food. If I don't like it, I can choose to not eat there. I would not sit there and give the server and the manager a hard time. People open restaurants to serve food the way they want to serve it. I'm so tired of people thinking that they can substitute everything or modify everything or build dishes however they want just because the restaurant has some ingredients in the store. It doesn't matter if it's a simple request. If the restaurant says they can't do it, then they can't do it. If a restaurant told me they can't substitute broccoli for carrots, even if it didn't make sense to me why they couldn't, I wouldn't question it. If they say they can't, then they can't. End of story. Well, this one lady did that today. We explained to her politely that we cannot accommodate the substitution that she wanted. Yes, her request was not a crazy ask, but we simply just don't serve it that way. We don't offer that substitution. That's why it's not on the menu. We don't have a button in the system for it, and the kitchen staff are instructed to not do that long before she even became a customer here. She said that we were being difficult for not doing it for her, and she's never been to a restaurant that never accommodated this substitution for her. We explained to her that not all restaurants operate the same way. We even suggested a similar dish for her that did have the ingredients that she wanted, but she refused and said if we didn't accommodate her, she would just leave, but then she wouldn't leave. And trust me, I wanted to tell her to just leave, but I couldn't. I was hoping she would get up and leave on her own, but she stayed and continued to argue with me about how difficult I was being. She said we have the ingredients in the restaurant, so why can't we just do it for her? She started saying how she's from a bigger city and how she came to do a nice big story on us, and now she won't do it because we can't accommodate her. She then said that she won't recommend anyone to us and how she's uncomfortable because we told her no, and how it's bad service and bad business. At this point, I really don't care. If you're gonna go to restaurants and act like restaurants have to fulfill your every wish just because they have the ingredients in their kitchen to do so, and argue with the servers and the manager, just get out and never come back. We don't need your good story that you were probably never even going to write for us anyway. I hate people who threaten restaurants with bad reviews, because seriously, go ahead and do it then. Don't sit here and threaten me with it just so you can try and get your way. We have plenty of loyal customers who are perfectly happy with how we serve our food. We don't need mean customers. We actually would rather you never come back. And don't recommend your friends to us either, because if they're just like you, then we do not want them here either. Okay, I absolutely agree with the original poster here. People who act like this at restaurants are so annoying. Like seriously, there's a menu for a reason. These are the things we can make, and that is all you're gonna get. You're not gonna get some extra special meal that only you can have. Like, that's really annoying annoying, and honestly, anybody who acts like that is a piece of garbage, especially when they're like, oh, I was gonna give you a good review, but now I'm not gonna do it. And it's like, okay, go ahead and write your bad review. At the end of the day, you won't come back and I will still have a job. Like, one bad review is not gonna take down a restaurant, idiot. Like, what are you thinking? So yes, I completely agree with this story because people who act like this are absolutely obnoxious. Am I the jerk for telling my brother that his new girlfriend is no longer welcome at family events after she's done some sketchy things to offend the family? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So my brother's new girlfriend, who we will call Avery, lived with her ex for 2 months before being kicked out and ended up back at her parents' house. She had known my brother, who we will call Josh, for a few years apparently, and he moved out of our parents' house to rent them an apartment together. Not only did he drive to another state to get her, but it's been over 2 months, and she still doesn't have a job to help with any of the bills. But my issue isn't really her not having a job, but instead, it's the things she's said and done over time. Mind you, this is the very first relationship he has ever been in, and the first girl he's ever brought around the family in general. Now, I'm a 25-year-old male, and I've got to know her over time, and she has been getting on my nerves, but I wanted to post here to get opinions if it's just me or not. It's been over 2 months of them living together, and she still hasn't applied to any jobs. I'm able to overlook that since it's not my place to say anything. However, she's also made a nasty comment about our cousin wearing a bikini, refuses to speak or even acknowledge our parents, and even lied to my brother about having no contact with her parents, when if you look on social media, that's an obvious lie, and they do in fact keep in touch and have a good online relationship. The final straw for me was when I texted him and didn't get a response. So I called him just for him to say, wait, why is your number not saved? And it's then that I heard laughing in the background. Now here's the thing, I've had the same number for years, and we were texting days before this, so it gave me a funny feeling. So I texted him yesterday asking him to not bring her to Thanksgiving dinner if she's going to refuse to speak to my parents, who have been nothing but welcoming to her. And also, she is not welcome over to my house anymore. Now here's the thing, my parents are aware of my thoughts and feelings about it, and they don't want her ignoring them. My dad is neutral and wants him to learn on his own, and my mom doesn't really favor her much, but doesn't want him to cut her off for speaking up. So I was asked to talk to Josh about it, and I have, but since it was brought up, nothing's been said from him about the situation. And no, he has not acknowledged it. It makes family gatherings awkward if one person isn't going to acknowledge everybody else, and my mom calls me upset about it often, leaving me with no direction on what to do, besides asking him to not bring her around if she's going to be rude and a walking red flag. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk, but honestly, I think this might be one of those situations where no matter how right you may be, you're still going to be seen as the bad guy. Because I see exactly what you're talking about. Avery comes off as incredibly manipulative, and the fact that she deleted your phone number from your brother's phone after you've had this phone number for a long time is like really sketchy in my opinion. And the fact that they're laughing about it in the background, like they knew what they were doing. Avery was well aware that they wanted to do this, and the fact that there was some kind of reaction honestly speaks volumes to the type of person Avery is. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, but I think you might be the only one that stands against this, because Avery's behavior is coming off as a little bit too sketchy, and that is something that I definitely would not want to ignore. Am I the jerk for not wanting to go on vacation with my friends, all because of the way they micromanage all of our expenses? Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old male, and I have a group of 5 friends from university who are around the same age as me. For the past 2 years, we've gone on vacation together. First, we went to Mexico, and then last year, we went to Egypt. We've always had a great time, and we get along well. However, when it comes to sharing the cost, I find myself struggling. And it's not the group that has an issue, but instead, it's me who has the problem. To provide some context, we met at university 9 years ago, and have been working for the last 5 years. Our university was ranked number 1 in the country at the time, and we all landed jobs just a month after graduation. So I mention that to illustrate that we are financially secure. I know for a fact that each of us earns between $80,000 to $100,000 annually. In terms of vacation cost, I typically spend around $3,000 for each trip, which is more than what my friends spend since I'm more comfortable with spending. Additionally, I'm aware that the vacation money we receive amounts to at least double of what any of them has spent on these trips. So this is the problem that I have. Every night they ask for a check, they start checking off items for everyone, and then make that person pay exactly that amount. To me, that's embarrassing. Getting nasty looks from the waitress who doesn't make in a day what these people make in an hour, waiting there for 10 to 15 minutes while they argue about who had what, and then starting to count bills and coins to pay. I suggested we split the bill 5 ways, but they just don't want to do that. They have mentioned that I'm the only one who drinks alcohol with dinner, and that it's not fair if they have to pay extra for it. And we're talking about maybe $2. I even offered to pay more, but they still refused because because some are not even big eaters and don't think they should pay extra for others. So basically, it's 4 versus 1. To make matters worse, they spend every night comparing Uber bills because maybe I paid a couple of dollars less for the ride. So now they're planning on having a trip for this year, and it could be the last one, as some of them want to start families, but I'm thinking of saying no, I just can't do this anymore. I enjoy our trips, but getting a pay request for $3 because I had a couple glasses of rum that someone else paid for at a hotel just honestly messes with my mood. But also, I'm the only one who has a problem with this, and I want to ask if maybe I'm the jerk, or if this is really just a strange way to handle finances. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way your friends are acting is really strange, and honestly, it sounds super annoying. And it's also seemingly over everything, like even down to the dollars and coins that you might be spending. Like seriously, who cares? Like just let it go. Now the original poster went on to say that they can't split the bill because most places they visit won't do that. So I kind of understand where you're coming from, but also it seems like out of everything that might go wrong on this trip, if this is the only thing that's frustrating you, then this really is not that big of a deal. Like if I was in your shoes, I would be weighing the pros and cons, and if this really is the only bad thing that happens and everything else is like an amazing trip and you have so much fun, then I would just plan accordingly. I would say, okay, anytime we buy something, it's gonna be a hassle, and just be ready to pay whatever you need to pay with maybe like small bills at the ready. I think just a few small adjustments really could make a big difference here. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for feeling this way, but I do think it's completely doable. I'm tired of customers who are immune compromised from coming to our restaurant and making demands that we cannot accommodate, because if they really cannot be around people, then maybe going to a restaurant is not the best idea. Here's what happened. So I had a guest come in asking to sit outside in 50-degree weather with rain on the way in less than an hour, all because they were immune compromised. Well, they then got pretty upset when I told them that we had no service outside and that we would not be able to sit them somewhere devoid of people. Now, not to sound like a jerk, but a restaurant is the last place that you should be if you're immune compromised. You know how many chefs, managers, cooks, dishwashers, bussers, hosts, food runners, bartenders, and servers come in sick? How many managers will tell us workers to just pop an aspirin and come in if you can't get your shift covered? Or how many people have sick kids that will carry those germs to work? Or how many people go outside with a flu, or a cold, or even a bad cough, or without even washing their hands properly? How many of us just take the train, the bus, the Uber, a taxi, or a Lyft to work, all packed and filled with germs? Not to mention that even on a kind of slow night, there are no areas devoid of people in the restaurant. Do you know how many times my coworkers have told me they're feeling sick today? I've worked at a lot of restaurants across the country, and we come in sick all the time. Guests come in sick all the time. And I'm not trying to scare anyone for saying that they're dumb for wanting to take precautions, but a restaurant in the busiest part of the city on a Saturday at 7 just might be the place you shouldn't be going out to. Okay, honestly, I completely agree with the original poster. If you really are immune compromised and you can't be around people, demanding accommodation at a restaurant that literally just can't do what you're asking of them, that in my opinion is super weird and super toxic. And sure, you're not trying to downplay people for taking precautions, but if you really are immune compromised, then maybe get some takeout. Like, don't go to a restaurant and be like, can we sit next to nobody on this busy Saturday night? It's like, no, I can't do that. That's like literally impossible. And you can't sit outside in the rain because, yeah, I'm not going to serve that. So yes, I completely agree with the original poster, because customers who act like that are incredibly annoying. I own an exotic car rental company, and I honestly hate how fake all of my clients are, despite the fact that I make a lot of money off of them. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I own an exotic rental car company in one of the largest markets for it in the United States. Along with cars, I rent out boats, houses, and even watches. And on average, I profit about $40,000 to $50,000 a month. I love what I do because it lets me own very nice things without having to pay for them out of my own pocket. But right now, I've begun to despise my clientele because the rapper in the G-Wagon you see on Instagram is renting it from me for $899 a day. Then they film their music video on my boat for $3,000 a day, and then pretend to live in my house that I rent to them for $1,000 a night. And the iced out paddock he's wearing is another $1,500 a day to rent. The finance guru in the 911 you see on TikTok with a full gold Rolex has rented both from me on a weekly basis for $2,500. And sure, I get it. Money attracts money, and renting things to help show off help further their businesses. But it also makes me despise them. When I originally started, I wanted to cater to the car enthusiast. I wanted to rent to the dude who just turned 50 and wanted to rent a Lamborghini to celebrate, or the guy who wanted a classy car for his wedding. But unfortunately, that's not where the money is. It's way too easy to make so much money off of renting to people who are just trying to flex, which is why I expanded into renting yachts, houses, and watches. A couple months ago, we had a client rent a Ferrari 488 and post on Instagram in the car with $1,000 in singles. He left an ATM receipt in the car from the transaction, and it showed he had a $40 available balance after withdrawing $1,000. And I honestly felt really bad for the guy. No amount of flexing on Instagram is going to fill whatever void you're trying to fill. So please, just remember that everything you see online is extremely fake. And unfortunately, that's now expanded into the real world too. Okay, this is honestly so relieving to hear, because sometimes when you look at those posts on Instagram or even like videos on TikTok, it makes you wonder how these people have that kind of money. Like, I don't know about you, but it is rough out here. So whenever I see posts like that, I'm always like, oh man, I am just not doing good enough financially. So this story to me is really reassuring that maybe I'm not doing as bad as I think I am, because most of these supposed financial gurus are just lying out of their teeth. They're renting these cars, they're renting the yachts, they're renting the expensive jewelry and all this other stuff. So if anything, these people are just playing dress up for thousands of dollars a day. And it's all for what? Internet points? Like getting a number up on your post? Like, that's so weird and stupid. But also, you know what? If it helps your business grow, then fine, go ahead and do it. Like, if you have the expendable income and this is going to help you go to like that next level, then why not rent out a G-Wagon and see if your business can go from there? But overall, I find this incredibly hilarious, because nobody in their right mind, especially nowadays, could ever afford any of the stuff being mentioned here. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.